how you guys are doing. Is everything good and okay? So Fernando, good to see you, Fernando. So Sophia is not joining us today. She will join us tomorrow. She has had a little party yesterday and had a sleepover, a few friends over, so they're still sleeping. So they slept in the tent outside, and it got cold during the night, so they got back into the house and didn't sleep well. So, but yes. So how's life, everyone? Are you on track to finish the project on time?
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
All right. Okay. How about you, Fernando? You don't say much. Is everything okay? Okay, good. All right. So what I wanted to talk about today is first that we have 2 weeks left and that we have to finish all the reports in this time. And I wanted to take a look at some of your submissions and maybe together give you some feedback on the quality of work you've done so far. It's pretty good, but there are some things that we can work on. And then also, I know there is at least one team that is a little behind the schedule. So I wanted to see if we can help them as well to get up to speed and finish the project in the remaining 2 weeks. So as you know, we have 2 weeks left. So the way it will go is the following. This weekend, tomorrow, you have to submit the draft of the last chapter of your report, so marketing. I'm not sure how you do it in your teams. I know in some teams, like where Maxim is and Sophia, those teams have decided that one person will be responsible for each of the report sections. And incidentally, it is Maxim and Sophia. So they did get some input from their team members, and they are trying now to finish those chapters so that they have a full draft, and they will submit it on behalf of the team. But then they also plan to share it with the team to see if anyone will have any additional input and suggestions for improving that section. Same thing with sections 1 and 2, market, product, and management. So if you are responsible for that section, again, I assume you already got some input from the rest of your team. You wrote something, you put it on paper, and then your team can still give you additional ideas, insights, improvement suggestions, and you can still incorporate that in your report. I know we have at least one team where the workload will be distributed more by the function, not by the report section. So somebody does most of the research, somebody does most of the writing, somebody does most of the copy editing. That is fine too. So whoever is responsible for writing will probably write something. And then
I think Sophia is the editor.
For copy editing, yes, we'll do more copy editing. So that's this weekend. Then you will have 1 week to submit a full draft. So it will be pretty much a finished report. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be more or less everything that you plan to submit in the end. And so there are 2 reasons we would like you to submit the draft next week. One, it will show you how much or how little you have completed, meaning that if something is not ready yet, you will know it once you look at the whole file. Some teams sometimes have different pieces of the document in different places, different people work on them, and everybody thinks that everybody will be done on time. And only when they put it all together, they realize that they may be missing whole sections. And so only then they realize that they still have a lot of work to do. And we would like you to have that realization, to see that well in advance before the final deadline. So if it turns out that you're still missing something, you will have a whole document. It will be easy to see what is still in need of more work, and you will have enough time to make those final revisions and additions and finish the document. Mm-hmm. Another very important reason is that you will be submitting the document next week via Turnitin. It is the platform that checks your work for plagiarism. And I will show you now what it looks like so when you submit it so you know what to expect. So let me go to Turnitin, and I will show you what it will look like once you go in there. So you see my screen now, right?
Yes.
So you see me
Yes.
Turnitin, it's showing the right window, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
when you go into the Turnitin, it will ask you, it will take like 2 minutes to submit, and then it will ask you to upload the file. It will take a few hours to scan the file for quality, and sometimes it may take literally like 4 or 5 hours. The reason for that is what the system does, it checks your document against millions and millions of documents on the web. And if there is anything plagiarized, copy and pasted, it will find it. And so these are the reports that were submitted last semester. And as you see, some of them have only 1% of copy and pasted material. Some of them have 3%, which is good. So up until about 20% is good. So sometimes you quote somebody, sometimes you use extracts from some articles that you found and cite them properly. So that's not a problem. But let's say you have something that looks more like 25%. Okay, 25%, that's already a problem. So when you click on this report, this is what it will show you. Like literally, this is what you will see. So you will see a document. And then when you go to here, it will show you what parts of the report were copied from where. Like, for example, this one. As you see, somebody copied a whole paragraph and then a lot of text, and then so it's almost like one whole page. And you will be able to click, and you will even see that it was copied from tourism intelligence and tourismintelligence.ca. And so 4% of the document were copied directly from the document. And I don't see any references here. So they literally just copied and pasted a whole page, almost 2 pages. So that is a problem. Or let's see what else they have here. So for example, like 3% here. So they tried to rephrase it, as you see, but you can tell that this paragraph was stolen from a different document. And so they got it, together. And so on and so on and so on. So I'm not sure why I draw the pictures here. So as a result, you will be able to see that. And if it happens to be the case that one of your team members copied and pasted too much into your document from external sources, you will see it. So far, I've checked your work, the drafts that you've been submitting, and there is no problem at all. So nobody was copied and pasted in anybody's work. There were a few quotes, but they were cited, so it's not a problem. But in case something happens, you will be able to see it in advance. And if that happens, you will have time to fix it. So that's what happens next week. And then after that, 1 week later, you will have to submit your final reports. So you will submit your final reports. They will go into the system, and that pretty much will be the end of this active phase. The only thing that you will still have to do after this is over, you will have to write a little reflection paper where you will describe your experience, what you have learned, what you would do differently, and you will have a couple of weeks for that, but that will be in May, so we will have time for that later on. Now, let me take a quick look at what we have so far with your work. So I downloaded here a few of your submissions, and let's take a look at them one by one, and let's see. Let me just open one more time so I go directly to the right document. So for example, we have one for InnoSpark and one for Finnish Schools International. So let me share the file. Okay, so you see the file now, right? You see the document?
Yes.
Okay, so here we have a draft from a team number 3. I like this document. They put a nice logo on top, both of Xculture as well as of the client organization, which in this case is InnoSpark, the toy maker. They clearly identified the client, so it will be easy to see team number, all of the team members. So I see Advey here, Sasha, Anna, Maxim happens to be on this team. Then they allocated a separate page for executive summary. At this time, they haven't written the executive summary yet, but I suppose that's fine. So usually executive summary is being written last after you have everything you already need. Then they have sections one by one. So this is section 1, competition. And so here they describe the customers, who the customers are of InnoSpark. And so they describe how they're different from other competitors and who usually buys them. And I think they talk here about that it's usually schools that buy those toys. Then they talk about competition. And so apparently they found a bunch of companies that are competitors, and they describe how they similar or different. And they put here the prices and so on, so on. That's very good. I think somebody put even a link here, and they even show you what other toys are available if you look at. So I think some of these are very different, some are a little similar, but so they have all of that. So that's very good, very impressive. So basically they describe all the competition. Then there is a product section, and they talk a little bit about the product, but it seems to me that they have some ideas. I don't know who came up with that, but some ideas for improving it, but then it stops in the middle of the sentence. And so it looks like this section needs more work. And I don't know if that team plans to come up with new designs for toys, or if they would like to provide some suggestions for improving the quality of the toys or features of the toys InnoSpark already makes. But it seems like they stop here abruptly, and so basically something's missing here. How do we, yeah, okay, erase it. Then we go on to the market section, and from what I see so far, they have ideas from Maxim, and he provided some ideas. It looks like he suggests that USA should be the market, and he explains why, and then a little bit about Canada. And then I think there were, I think I saw the ideas from, yes, so then we have ideas from Anna, and she suggests the Czech Republic. And so the reason I am a little concerned here that it seems like this team has not agreed yet on what market they recommend for the client. To me, both look fine. The United States is fine. I see Canada is mentioned somewhere. That is fine too. The Czech Republic seems fine too. I suppose, why not? But then the big question is which one it is. So it's important that the team has a meeting, I don't know, later today maybe, and decides if they would like to stay with Czech Republic, or they even mentioned here Germany, Poland, Slovakia, Austria. So they need to add that. The same thing about the United States. So if they decide one, that's fine, but they need to decide. And then also I see somebody mentions India, Brazil, or Russia. So you have so many countries, now you have to decide which one is the best. All of them are viable markets, but you have to decide. Yes. Yes, somebody wanted to say something?
I wanted to say something.
Yes, go ahead.
Fun fact, when they mention Austria, Poland, Germany, and Slovakia, they're mentioning the countries that surround the
Yes, good eye, very much. Yes, very good. Yes, but still, it seems to me that they're suggesting both the United States and the Czech Republic, and they also mentioned that maybe India, Brazil, or Russia would be a good market. So they would probably need to decide on which one is the best. I would even recommend that they keep the whole list in the report and say that we looked at the world and we found several viable options. And you list them and you say that all of those are good for different reasons. But then in the end, we decided that this one is the best. Another thing I like here, but again, they may need to do a little bit more. So they tried to describe the country. And so they started describing the Czech Republic, in terms of the population size and population density. And it seems like they didn't do it for the United States yet. So you want to describe it, but be very, very, very careful here. And so this is very important, what I'm going to say now. When we say describe the country, don't put anything and everything that you can find on this country. So there is, for example, no need perhaps to say what, I don't know, the climate is, or maybe there is, but you have to think each time if this is relevant to your product. Like, for example, let's take a look and see what we have here about the Czech Republic. So we have 10 million people. I suppose this is useful because that gives you some information about the size of the market, how many products you can sell. Population density, I'm not sure if this is relevant, might be. I mean, if you need to serve a market that is very dense, like, for example, if it was the Finnish Schools International, it actually might be a good idea to talk about population density because children can come only from nearby to that school. And so the more densely is the country populated, the more people you would have within sort of driving distance. So the toys that will be mailed mainly over the internet, I am not sure if it matters what the population density is. Somebody really likes to draw, so.
Can I add something?
Yeah, that's okay, yeah, so yeah, thank you for raising that. So it is okay to include lots of interesting information about the market, but always think, is it important to my client? And if it is important, if you will take that into account when you make your proposal, yes, include it. But if it's not important, maybe it's not necessary. Like, for example, let's say if somebody was talking about, I don't know, the main religion of this country, toys, religion, probably not relevant. But if somebody was talking about the language of this country, that might be interesting. So for example, InnoSpark cannot provide support in Czech in the language. So only this would make sense to go to this country if there are enough people who speak English as a second language. So that might be an interesting discussion, and it might be worthwhile mentioning. Likewise, for example, if you wanted to tell us what the GDP per capita is, that is relevant information because the more people earn, the more people can afford. So I suppose that matters. But if you talked about the main political parties of this country, again, I'm not sure if it matters in this context. It doesn't affect your decision as a toy maker, as a company that sells products there. So maybe that's irrelevant. So make sure that you decide on the country and make sure that you then describe that country in sufficient detail, but focus primarily on culture, on maybe, economics, economy. So things that are relevant to your product, maybe something on the tradition of toys in this country and things like that. And so you have some market description here, but as you see at this time, there is really not much there. Then going on to marketing. So let's see what they have here. So they talk about promotion channels, and they start with the statement that we are trying to reach daycares and schools, and maybe a little parents. Okay, and that's fine. And they suggest a bunch of options. So they talk about maybe direct mailing. And it seems to me that they justify that because they think that it wouldn't make sense to advertise on TV, because on TV, everybody watches TV. Not only people who have who manage daycares or schools and can buy those toys, or people who have kids and might buy those toys. So the argument is that it would be too expensive to advertise on TV. So therefore, we will go with the direct mailing. And so the argument here is that it's easy to go to the Yellow Pages or to Google and find all daycare facilities in a specific city. And I think that this was done by Maxim because I see Greensboro, that's the town where we live. And so he says if you put Greensboro daycare in Google, you can find over 100 daycares in this location in less than 5 minutes. And so he says that when you go there, you can easily find the contacts, both email as well as mailing address. And he even shows, I see here, what it would look like. So if you put Greensboro daycares, you get all these places with website, with directions, and you can literally see, literally see the address and the contacts. So if you wanted to send them information about your product, you can do it directly. Okay, and so what else do we have here? So he has suggests that you can send emails, and then even does some calculations for how much it would cost. So it will take about 1 minute per address to find. It will take you so much time to send the list. If you hire someone to do it for you, it will cost you, let's say, $10 per hour for that person. So it will cost you about 15 cents to send one message. And if you think that about 95% of the people will ignore your message, but 5% will open, and of those who open, only 10% will buy, then you can make a prediction about how much money you will have to spend on advertisement and how much money you will get from that campaign. So he makes a conclusion here that it may work, but only if you make $30 or more profit on each sale. And then it seems like he's trying to do here the same calculations for mail promotion. So when you send not a email, but an envelope with a hard copy in it, and it seems like his numbers are still not here. And then he also said something about newsletter, and honestly, I don't fully understand what he meant. So he said that maybe there are some newsletters that go to schools, and maybe you can add like a page advertisement in that newsletter. And so he started writing here, it seems like twice even. And so I don't know much what the idea is, but I think the idea is to ask the newsletter provider to put some advertisement of InnoSpark in that document. And he probably will try to come up with some sort of a suggested either text of that message or picture or whatever there is there. And then, yes, I see he has some suggestions for what the text and of the email might look like. And that's what the letter might look like. And so there are some ideas. I'm not sure if he plans to provide some examples. It would be good. And then what the ad in the newsletter would look like. And it seems like that's pretty much all they have. There may be also a good idea to add some sort of a conclusion at the end. or maybe some kind of step-by-step instructions for how to implement the plan. But when I look at this submission, so it looks good. They have all the main components, but I still see that they have to do some work. So they have to decide on the country. They have to describe that country. They have to finalize the marketing. They may need to do a little bit more on competition. So they're probably about 80% done, but they still need some work to do in this week to have a full draft. So that's what I have on this one. Any comments, any suggestions, any impressions? So, I mean, any questions perhaps about this specific work before we move on to the next one?
I don't remember certainly, but I think someone in our team added the same X-Culture picture.
Yes, we will look at that. I know Sophia has been working on that. I even helped her a couple of weeks ago to put it together. So we will take a quick look at that one in a minute too. So
yes, but I didn't see where.
I will ask Sophia to send you the link. So, but yeah, I think there is a similar document for your team as well. So yes, I'm familiar with this team. So let's take a quick look at this other document, and then we will maybe answer some questions. So here we have, just a second. Okay, so this is another document.
This is ours.
This one is by team number 5.
Hey!
And again, it has a nice logo here, and then it has the client organization, Finnish Schools International. And then, again, a logo of the company, very thoughtful. I'm not sure where they found it, but maybe went just to the company's website and maybe copied from there. We see the team members. So we have Aelita, Danielle, Gemma, Harsh, and Sophia. I really like that they put here information on who does what. Like, for example, they said that Aelita serves as a team coordinator, and then Danielle will be taking notes and ask questions, I assume during the meetings. And she's also responsible for section 1. Gemma is playing the role of the devil's advocate. That's a very interesting one. So I read their team charter. And so Gemma's role here is literally to question everything and make sure that people think about it 10 times before they finalize the decision. And she's responsible for section 2. Harsh is also responsible for section 1 with Danielle. And then Sophia will do the final formatting, as well as work on section 3. So that's very informative to me, for example, as an instructor or a parent, so I can tell who did what. So when we will be giving you the recommendation letters, we can even mention, you know, what roles you had, and perhaps even look at your specific section and maybe say a few words about the quality of your personal work, not only the work of your team. And then I see they also have an executive summary list page. And as I see at this time, there is not much here. They only said that it should be about 300 words, but at least they're preparing. So I suppose once everything else is done, they will write the executive summary. Now, the dream school. So section 1, so it seems like Sophia or whoever it was copied the instructions for this section, so everybody remembers what they did, but I assume the goal is to delete it once you have the text, so I don't think this needs to be there. So I would literally mark it for deletion because this is something that you would not need in the file once you're done. And so here I see some ideas. What I don't like about this section, I read it and I like the ideas, but what I don't like about it is that it's like a lot of text on one page. So it is hard to,
I know.
I would split it.
It's not.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, Danielle?
No, it's me.
It's,
Or Michelle? Yes.
It's just.
Yeah, I think the ideas are wonderful, but remember that your clients will receive a lot of documents, so it may be a good idea to split it into smaller sections, maybe smaller paragraphs, maybe even a bullet list. So this
Also, we didn't kind of we didn't write down who said what, so
Right.
we should do that probably too, because it's just a bunch of text and it's like unknown who
Right.
did what.
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to, like, you don't have to say each time who said what, because for the client, they don't really care if it was idea from, let's say, Danielle or Aelita or Sophia. They just want the ideas. What I mean is that if you presented those ideas in a more like a bullet list format, or maybe nice paragraphs, maybe even with some pictures, it would be easier to read. So the ideas are wonderful. It just needs a little extra cleaning. So I think if Sophia is responsible for formatting, maybe we will ask her to do it, but if you all can help, that might help. So just a second, just 1 second.
I wonder what's happening.
No, but this is good. They have a lot of ideas for how to improve the product. I really like it. And it's a lot of text, so they definitely have something to work with. As I said, it just needs a little cleaning, because here, that's the section where you are describing your dream school. And it seems to me that it's the most important, the biggest section of the document, so you want to provide more details. As I said, maybe even some pictures if you want. Like, for example, somebody says that school should be pleasing to the eye. Who said that? I don't know, but it's a very
I did.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. So what you can do, you can maybe even go online and maybe even, you know, like cool school building. And you can even find some pictures and say it could be something like this. And you can literally say, okay, I found these schools. Like, I think like if it looked like this, it would be very nice, or maybe like this. I mean, the big question obviously is, can the company afford a school like this? It would be a beautiful school, but I mean, that's, I imagine, very expensive to build. And at least you can provide some examples.
I saw a school that had like a slide in it to go to the playground or go to the like main.
Just
main
one more
room,
second.
or like
one more.
or like a pool or something, or like a vending machine for pencils and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, if you saw that picture somewhere, why don't you include it as an example? So that will make the report more easy to read, more illustrative. So why not? So that would be a good idea. So all of those are viable options. Just 1 second. Let me go back to the original document. And just 1 second. All right, so no, but anyway, good ideas, lots of ideas, so you definitely have something to work with. Then when it comes to market, so again, not quite sure what's going on here. So we have something about Ukraine, I see, then we have some text that is almost impossible to read. So we have some information from Wikipedia about Sweden, I believe.
Yeah, that's
right. So all of this could be useful, but again, needs a little extra cleaning. And it would be a very good idea to clearly identify what country you're going to. So are you going to Sweden? Are you going to the United States? I think in the webinar, we talked about Sweden, and I think they said that Sweden may not be a good idea because they already have a very good education system, and they usually don't pay for private schools unless it's going to be a charter school. I think they said that that would be an option. So anyway, you might want to take a closer look here. And then we have some examples on the GDP per capita. I assume the idea is that those would be the countries where people can pay for the schools, and we have a nice, good list. So lots of information to work with. And then top 10 best school systems in the world. Yeah, very good, very good. Lots of interesting information. So all of this looks very, very good to me. The only problem I see is that it needs some cleaning. So it basically needs to clearly identify the best market in the beginning. Like you literally made like first sentence. We suggest that we open that school in, and whatever country. I see here Britain, and I see here Ukraine and the United States. So whichever you decide is fine, but you need to clearly identify that. And then likewise, describe this country in a relevant light. So talk about things that are relevant, maybe something about the economy, maybe something about the education system, maybe something about the country. So so things like that, but it has to be all clear.
the thing that's in blue. It's like from a website.
Yes, can you please say that again?
The thing that's in blue, I just picked a random color. Those are words from a website.
If you put something from the website as a quote, make sure to provide the source. And so it's okay to put a quote here, but only if it's necessary and only if you properly attribute the authorship. So tell who the author was. Just 1 second. My dog is not behaving well. All right, so, but yes, the good news is that you have a lot of information to work with. So all you have to do is just clean up the information now and it will work fine. So I see a lot of information, just needs some cleaning. And then for the marketing strategy, again, I see somebody put here the list of things that still need to be done. And then I see here the information. So the promotion channel, and then so there is a list of things that need to be done, but it looks to me like not much has been done. Some numbers are here and then some other stuff, but it looks like a little bit more needs still to be done in this section. And then where do we place the ad? And so there are some examples about Facebook. So again, it looks to me like there is a lot of information to work with. Somebody just needs to sit down and clean it and then present it in a more readable way. And I think this last section is Sophia's page, so I will make sure to work with her so she makes a good job here and then does some cleaning up in the end. And from what I see, it looks like it's a very good thing that the whole team contributed. Like I see somebody said $26 and put dollar signs. Just a second. So, and then given that the dollar sign is after the number, I know it was not Sophia because in the United States they would put the number like this. So it tells me that the whole team was helping here, which is wonderful, great. And so this will give the author of this specific section something to work with. So this is wonderful. All right. So now anyone has any comments about these two reports, and then maybe we'll take a look at another one or two. Anyone?
I think I can help Sophia clean it up because I wrote like the big part in the dream school, like the big part. I can clean that up. By the way, a little bit off topic. Can you tell me when Sophia wakes up? I want to tell her happy birthday.
I think you want to go get my dog because it was barking right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was for a second. Yes, but yes, if you can help Harsh, that would be very, very nice. So it's all about teamwork. And one of the mistakes a team can make is to expect one person to do all the work on a specific section. Even if that person is very smart and very diligent, it still will be a good idea for everyone to contribute a little bit to each section. Because as I said, one person can have only so many ideas. And when everybody else pitches some ideas, even if it's written primarily by one team member, at least that team member has more to go up. So definitely that will help. All right. Any other comments or observations? Do we have any teams that have not done much? Fernando, for example, how is it going with your team? Ilya, I see here. Ayushi, are your teams working on everything? Like, is everything going well for your teams? I haven't seen your submissions that much. So how's it going in your teams?
Yeah, it has been going well. I will try to do like more submissions. And basically we have been decided on whatever ideas we're working on it, and you will get we'll submit it by this Sunday.
Well, as long as you know that you're making progress, that's great. So are you using also Google Docs, or how are you writing the document?
We are using Google Docs.
Okay, so you all have access to the same file, and you all can basically, okay, wonderful. Great. How about you, Fernando? How is your team doing?
My team is doing very well, and everyone has different roles.
So you're making some progress as well?
Yes.
Wonderful, great. And how are you writing your document? Are you using like a shared Google Docs, or are you doing it in Dropbox, or what's your?
At first we were going to use Google Docs, but we had some problems with our So we shared different documents.
So you just send like an email attachment?
We have a group in a WhatsApp group.
Okay, so you just share the documents in WhatsApp. That's a very good idea too. One of the problems with email attachments, and I'm less familiar with WhatsApp, but I assume that's similar. So if you send a document back and forth and different people would work on it, sometimes what happens, you end up with multiple copies of the document, and it's hard to find which one is the latest one. So, but as long as you know you manage it, it's great. I wish Ojas and Raj was here, so we have one of the team members, I think it's team number 4, if I remember correctly. So where at least one team member indicated that some team members are not actively participating. And so I hope I will be able to meet with them tomorrow. Michelle, are you on that team? So how's it going? Tell us a little bit more. Let me unmute you. So tell me more about your team, because I think I've heard that some of the team members may not be as active.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vlad, I'm especially worried about. He hasn't been working like at all. I'm not sure he's done anything.
So, but then you are working, I know, and Justin Raj seems to be working, and then there is one more person?
Christus, I think he worked a little on the 3rd section. Before he barely worked at all too. So.
So it's basically 2 people who work actively, one who does a little work, and then one who is not really participating much, right?
Oh, Jasmine's doing good, I think.
Yeah.
So I consider it 3 people who are actually doing something.
Okay.
2 that are.
Do you think you will be able to have the draft ready in a week?
Yes, we probably
okay, great. What I can do, if it helps, I can give a coach assigned to your team, so we can take one of our MBA students who serve as coaches, and then maybe they can help you. I'm not sure if you need it, but if you do, send me an email, and we will literally assign a coach who will help you perhaps with some ideas. The goal of the coaching is not to write the report for you, but rather maybe help you with some coordination, and then maybe provide some feedback on whatever you have. So if you feel that may be necessary and beneficial, just let me know. We will give you somebody to sort of help your team be on track. But at the same time, one thing I would recommend is that if you have one team member or maybe even 2 who perhaps may not be reliable, it may be already a good idea to start planning for how to finish the report without their help. Because if they have not been reliable so far, there is a good chance they may not come, like they may not, deliver in the last week. So it's almost a good idea to communicate then directly with Ojas and Raj and say, okay, it seems like we may not be able to rely on Vlad, for example. So why don't we decide who does his section? If he comes back, if he does something, great. But if not, at least we have a plan in place for contributing and finishing that section without Vlad. Because if he hasn't done much so far, I would be very surprised if all of a sudden he does all the work. So people tend to be, if a good person, they, work hard from the beginning till the end. If the person doesn't work for 6 months, I'm not sure what the chances are that he will all of a sudden become a nice team member in the last 2 weeks. Maybe, hopefully, but we never know.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So again, if you need any help from me or from a coach, just send me an email. We'll help you with that as well.
Okay.
All right. So then anything else that you wanted to discuss? Any questions, comments? Anyone? So I have Aelita. I'm sorry, I'm a bit off topic, but yeah. Yes, yes. So Aelita is asking a very good question, and I think other teams should also think about that. Aelita is asking to help organize a Skype meeting. And so Sophia, my daughter, has not been apparently very responsive. She's now in gymnastics competition cycle. So every weekend she has a competition. And then on top of that, she has the birthday yesterday. And so has some friends over. But yes, I'll definitely talk to her. It's very important. I know she's been doing some work online, but communication is more important. And hopefully you will be able to have a meeting sometime soon.
Yeah, a meeting and I would just like to talk to her because she's a really friendly, talkative person, and I'm really happy when I get to talk to her.
Okay, all right, good to hear that. Though again, it's important that people not only talk but also do an important, do the job. And so I'm glad to hear that Sophia talks a lot. I just hope that that talking translates into doing as well. So Fernando, yes, please go ahead.
What is the maximum of pages that the final report have?
I love, Fernando, how you put it. You said, what's the maximum number of pages? Most people ask, what's the minimum number of pages? And that's a bad idea. So I'm glad that you said, what's the maximum number of pages? So usually we want the reports to be shorter. So aim at about 15 to 20 pages maybe, but less is better than more. I am not sure how it works with you. So you are younger and maybe it's a little different for you, but with the bigger, adult students, MBA students who are like 20 something, the big problem for them is to keep it short. Some of them try to make it 50, 60, 70 pages long. And the problem with that is that while it may look like they put a lot of effort in their work and, wrote so much, the problem is that nobody has the time to read so much. There was this writer, Mark Twain, so an American writer, and he once said as a joke, he said, "My letter is very long. Sorry, I didn't have time to make it shorter." And so the point here is that if you know what you're trying to say, you can express it in a few words. You don't need a lot of space. If you know that you're going, for example, to the United States, you just type "go to the United States." If you're familiar and did your research and you can describe this culture very well, you can describe it in a few paragraphs. And only if you don't know what you're proposing, then you rumble around and around and around and copy and paste everything you can find online, and then it becomes big and not focused. So less is better than more. It doesn't mean that you have to say less. It means that you have to try to say it in fewer words. So add a picture or a diagram instead of 10 pages of text. If you're talking about a specific design for your toy or school, maybe draw a picture and show it instead of describing it for pages and pages. So less is better, but it probably would be too short if you have only 10 pages, because that would probably be not sufficient detail. And at the same time, if you're above 20 pages, 25 especially, I would start worrying that it's too much, too many details, or maybe too much irrelevant stuff. So the perfect length would be somewhere around 15 pages, maybe 20. So within that range, it would be perfectly fine. Another tip I would give also, so the executive summary is the most important part, because the clients will not have much time to read everything. There are so many teams. So the executive summary is something they will definitely read. But I would even say that you should include a little executive summary for each section. Like if this is the section that describes your product, like for example, the Dream School or new toys, have like a 1-paragraph summary of the key ideas that you're proposing, or maybe like a bullet list. Nice, appealing to the eye, homework done this way, projects done this way, like literally just a couple of sentences. And then 2, 3, 4 pages describing it in more detail. And then likewise, if you're talking about a market, you say, for example, we think that the United States or Qatar or Czech Republic is the best market. And then you literally say, key characteristics, this is the reason. For example, it's a big market. A lot of people with money and private schools are popular because public schools are not good. So that's your executive summary. So the company will see right away what you're proposing. And then you describe in more detail what exactly you meant by that. What numbers did you use for your decision and stuff like that. So that may be a very good idea too. All right. Anything else? Yes, Fernando and then Oleg. Yes, Fernando, go ahead, please.
There is some citation format we need to use when we cite.
How you cite, that's a very good question. I actually have a little webinar, like a few minutes, where we talk about how to properly cite work. And I think in your training materials, when we did the theory training, didn't we have one module specifically on academic writing, citing? Like it does provide examples for how to cite. I will send it to you one more time in case you forgot, so that if you use somebody else's work, which is fine, there is no problem with quoting someone or using somebody's numbers. The important thing is that you properly attribute the authorship. So you would say, I found this information here. Here is the link. You can always verify it. I'm not pretending that it's my idea. I used somebody else's idea. Here is the author. So as long as you do it right, it's not a problem. It's actually very good because it strengthens your argument. So if you found some credible source like the World Bank or maybe the United Nations report, it's perfectly fine to use some of the information from there, and it is fine to cite them. So no problem at all. You just have to do it right. Yes. Yes, Mr. Leskiv, yes.
Yes, hello. I only have to admit that all my students in international teams are doing good currently.
Yes, yes. Yeah. By the way, yes, so far you're our best teacher. So we have several teachers. No, I'm not kidding. So we have several teachers, and just like we evaluate performance of students, we also look at performance of different classes. And actually your students all seem to do very well. So based on kind of class average, you're the best teacher so far. So congratulations, yes.
Yes, but in the same time, we have some problems with our Ukrainian training teams, as we call them. A couple of my students said me that they trying to connect with their teammates, but their team is just ignoring them. They are not active. So we have situation when my students have to prepare a report, reports only by themselves.
Right. No, that's not good. Let me talk again to the other teachers and make sure that they, they know about this situation. Hopefully we still will be able to work it out. So if nothing works, if this happens, if something like this happens and the team needs extra time, maybe we'll even give them an extra week to finalize the report, but ideally would like to stay on the schedule. So, but yes, I will talk to the other professors right away, teachers, and so to make sure that they talk to their students. And then if something happens and some students dropped out and are no longer interested or available, maybe we will even merge some of the teams together. So if we have, let's say, one team where only 2 students work and another team where only 1 student works, maybe we'll just make it one team and we will have at least, a few active people who would work together. So thank you for letting me know. Yes, we will work on that. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay, then. So I suppose we can. So I will have another meeting tomorrow. I know that some people were not able to attend the one today, and so I wanted to go over some more reports with other teams and provide some feedback as well as see what questions they have. So if any of you need, to attend, you're most welcome to. And then yes, so Aelita mentioned about Skype meeting. So if you guys have a time, maybe remind Sophia, I'll make sure that she's online, but also other teams, if you're planning to meet and have discussions. So that would be a very good idea to finalize your ideas and thoughts and plans, and then, make sure that you have a plan for this 1 week when you write the draft, and then another week when you're finalizing everything and then submit the final report. So, all right, well, but good job so far. Honestly, I'm quite impressed. So we have about 100 kids. Many of them are on the student team. So they're like 17-year-old students who will be graduating from school this year. So they are on real college teams, and almost all of them do very well. So they're like very amazing, but they're also older, so no problem with that. But then the younger ones, so we have 6 or 7 teams that are younger people. And so obviously you guys attend every meeting. So I'm actually quite impressed with the quality of your work. And I'm impressed by the fact that you have so many interesting ideas and have meetings from time to time. Nobody knew how it would go. And honestly, many people thought that the kids are just not ready to work in teams. They said, oh, until they're at least 16, there is no way they can work in global virtual teams. And then I see you guys online on Skype meetings and writing something and creating those documents, and then Trello and Slack, I think one team uses. Like, wow, I mean, that's quite impressive. So that's very encouraging. So it seems like the idea is working and you're learning. So that's what matters. That's what matters. All right, well, so stay in touch, and then I'll have another meeting tomorrow, and then one obviously a week after. And so good luck to your teams, and if you need any help, just send me an email. All right, have a nice day.